aviation enthusiasts, lately Malaysia has actually been facing a fairly serious situation, even though on the surface everything still looks calm. Behind the blue skies of Southeast Asia, there is an air defense issue that is starting to feel increasingly urgent. This is especially true when we talk about the North Natuna Sea, a region that is becoming more sensitive by the day. At this point, Malaysia appears to be falling behind Indonesia in terms of readiness and modernization of air power. If we compare things casually but honestly, Indonesia today is like someone entering the arena fully equipped, taking part in the development of the KF-21 Boramae, while at the same time purchasing Rafale jets and even joining the CAN project. It is a clear example of not putting all eggs in one basket. Meanwhile, Malaysia is still focused on plans to acquire second-hand Fa-18CD Hornets from Kuwait. This is where many eyebrows start to rise, not because the Hornet is a bad aircraft, but because the context of the era has changed. At present, the most advanced asset in the Royal Malaysian Air Force inventory is the Fa-50M. This aircraft is modern, agile, and well-suited for many missions. The problem is, to face the increasingly complex dynamics of the Indo-Pacific region, the Fa-50M alone is clearly not enough. It is like bringing a city car into a racing circuit filled with sharp turns and high speeds. This situation cannot be allowed to drag on, especially when regional geopolitics are full of uncertainty. Calm today, new frictions tomorrow. The RMAF seems to understand this very well. That is why they have begun taking more proactive steps. The Chief of Air Force, General Datuk Seri Muhammad Norazlan Aris, openly stated that they cannot keep waiting indefinitely for certainty regarding the ex-Kuwaiti Fa-18CD Hornets. He highlighted three key issues which, when combined, feel like a tightening knot: aircraft technical constraints, export controls from the United States, and changes in the regional air power balance. All three converge at a very decisive moment for the future of Malaysia's combat capability. This is not merely about buying aircraft, but about a nation's strategic position. Indeed, interest in the ex-Kuwaiti Fa-18CD Hornets has not completely faded. In terms of service life, these Boeing-built jets could still fly into the 2030s. However, their relevance is increasingly being questioned. Modern battlefields now demand advanced sensors, data integration, and extremely precise identification capabilities. Moreover, the North Natuna Sea requires an extra level of vigilance, as it involves shared interests, not just those of a single country. The problems do not stop there. On Kuwait's side, the replacement aircraft in the form of Super Hornets have not yet been fully delivered. This means the jets intended for transfer to Malaysia are also delayed. Above all, there is the factor of the United States, which holds export control authority. Even if the transaction is conducted between companies, the green or red light ultimately remains in Washington's hands. The US certainly does not want a business deal to later turn into a geopolitical issue. If we pause for a moment and look at the bigger picture, this is where the KF-21 Boramae begins to appear as a logical answer for Malaysia. The need is urgent, not a long-term theoretical discussion. Moreover, Malaysia has previously expressed interest in this Indonesia-South Korea collaborative fighter. So the story is not entirely new. It was simply delayed. What is particularly interesting is that the KF-21 Boramae's development continues to show real progress. Korea Aerospace Industries has just signed a contract with BAE Systems to install the latest identification friend or foe system. The Combined Interrogator Transponder APX-127 V1 allows the aircraft to distinguish friend from foe with a high level of accuracy. In modern warfare, this is not just an extra feature, but an absolute necessity. Misidentification can lead to fatal incidents, something everyone wants to avoid. For Malaysia, such capabilities are crucial to avoid falling too far behind Indonesia in air fleet modernization. Technically speaking, acquiring the KF-21 Boramae is not overly complicated. In fact, operating the Fa-50M becomes an advantage, as the platforms and ecosystems belong to the same family. From the manufacturer's perspective, this simplifies training, logistics, and system integration. In the end, all decisions indeed rest with the Malaysian government and the RMAF. However, if we look at things with a cool head, the direction of the wind is starting to change. Amid regional uncertainty, choosing a fighter aircraft is no longer about prestige, but about readiness to face an increasingly complex reality while maintaining a balance of power in the skies of Southeast Asia. Looking at these conditions, the choices facing Malaysia are actually narrowing. Not because the options are few, but because the demands of the situation make time an extremely costly factor. Every year of delay means a growing capability gap, and in the world of air defense, even a small gap can have serious consequences. In Southeast Asia, the balance of air power is not just numbers on paper. It speaks to deterrence, national confidence, and the ability to protect one's own airspace without constantly looking outward. Indonesia, through its modernization steps, has indirectly raised the standard of the game. And when one country raises the bar, others inevitably have to adjust if they do not want to be left behind. This is where the KF-21 Boramae becomes interesting not only as an aircraft, but as a symbol of policy direction. Positioned between older generation fighters and fifth generation jets, it offers modern technology without the extreme complexity that often causes costs to spiral. For a country like Malaysia, this is like choosing the right pair of shoes for a long-distance run, neither too heavy nor too light. Beyond that, the aspect of industrial cooperation also deserves serious consideration. The KF-21 is not merely a finished product, but part of an ecosystem that opens opportunities for technology transfer, the upskilling of technicians, and the strengthening of the domestic defense industry. These elements often escape public attention, even though their impact can be felt for decades to come. If we listen more closely to the recent tone of statements from senior RMAF leaders, there is a sense that they do not want to be trapped in old patterns, waiting and hoping that all external factors will fall into place. The world has changed, and defense decisions today must be agile, adaptive, and realistic. Waiting too long can turn what was once a reasonable option into an outdated one before it is ever realized. And of course, all of this is unfolding amid increasingly critical public scrutiny. People are no longer just looking at what aircraft are being purchased, but also asking why they are chosen, what benefits they bring, and how far these decisions truly address real challenges in the region. These questions are natural because air defense is not an elite issue alone. It concerns shared security. With this backdrop, Malaysia's next steps will be crucial in shaping its air power over the next 1 to 2 decades. Whether it continues to hold on to older options while facing uncertainty, or makes a strategic decision aligned with regional dynamics. Under increasingly busy Southeast Asian skies, the choices made today will determine how ready a nation is to safeguard its airspace tomorrow.